You have no clue which technology is going to disrupt your business, and you might find yourself out of business, and you might find yourself out of a job. And hence, the new metaphor I'm suggesting that people have in their minds for creativity is that creativity is like hope.
Welcome to the Stars of Learning podcast, where your host Jyoti Ji explores the minds of the thought leaders who have vast experience and in-depth knowledge in the learning industry. Now, over to your host Jyoti Ji.
Hello everyone. A very warm welcome to the Stars of Learning podcast, and I'm your host Jyoti Ji. I'm glad and happy that you are joining me today, as each episode of my show are sure to accelerate your learning, enhance your capability, connect with these inspiring leaders, and keep you well versed with the disruption or change happening currently and in the future at the learning phase. I also assure you that you will master the best of what people have already figured out. This is episode number 9 on quest for mind mapping and brain literacy with the first Mumbai's mind map trainer. So friends, Tony Buzan said learning how to learn is life's most important skill, and mind maps are the meta language of human brain. So friends, I hope now you know that mind maps have infinite applications for business, education, and self-development, and whatever you're doing, you can do better with mind map. I'm sure you have gained greater insight on mind map, the techniques and the applications, and how relevant mind map is for our success and growth. Dharmendra Rai has shared a greater insights on my earlier episode number 6 on quest for mind mapping and brain literacy. Friends, if you are listening to this show for first time, make sure you also listen to part 1 of this episode number 6 to know all about mind mapping and brain literacy. Our guest today is the one and only Dharmendra Rai, a magnificent personality, Mumbai's first mind map trainer who has trained close to 2K startups in mind mapping. Executives of many Fortune 500 companies have gone through his seminar. He is a TEDx speaker not just once but 5 times. And his videos on TEDx channel has hit 3 billion views. And what more, he has been declared as a genius by the guru Tony Buzan. He has been ranked number 1 in an international creativity test by Tony Buzan, and he is certified not once but thrice from Think Buzan Institute. In the part 1 episode, we had some interesting stuff to discuss on nuances of mind map and being number 1 in the mind mapping journey. Now, our conversation continues on the quest for mind mapping and brain literacy as a part 2 episode, and we will deep dive on the approach which our guest Dharmendra has taken, how he has transformed connecting with great leaders through the mind map journey. So Dharmendra, I was actually watching a video of yours, and you say creativity is an oxygen. Why? And is creativity and mind mapping go hand in hand?
Okay, so I think you're referring to the TEDx talk I did in 2013.
Right.
Which incidentally was the first talk on TEDx talk or TED talk on mind mapping. And I had suggested that the name be called Creativity is like Oxygen, because I wanted to use oxygen as a metaphor. A human being can remain without food and without water for several months. At the same time, he cannot survive without oxygen for more than a few minutes. So that's why I had suggested oxygen as a metaphor. And I think that's a wrong metaphor now, that I think about creativity in a deeper way. And I've been thinking about it for several decades now. Since there are so many technological changes now, you can never be sure about your business existing the next day. You have no clue which technology is going to disrupt your business, and you might find yourself out of business, and you might find yourself out of a job.
True.
And hence, the new metaphor I'm suggesting that people have in their minds for creativity is that creativity is like hope.
Okay.
So you might have oxygen, you might have food, you might have water, but if you don't have hope, then you're going to perish in a few seconds. So that is how critical creativity is. And the smartest companies in the world, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, they've clearly got the message. They are ensuring that they have training programs on creativity. Messages are being sent out that creativity is the most important thing. Billionaires are talking about it. Mark Cuban of Shark Tank is talking about it. Our very own Raghuram Rajan, who is the ex-head of RBI, who's now with a Chicago Booth School of Business, is talking about it. So the smartest people in the world, the richest people in the world, most successful people in the world are now talking about creativity in a very, very big way.
Okay, that's a great insight, Dharmendra. So, Dharmendra, you stood first in creativity among 15 certified Think Buzan instructors internationally. Can you share your journey on creativity and being number one?
Yes. Again, I've used both mind mapping and lateral thinking to beat the other people who were in that contest. And I was very happy with that, both from a personal point of view as well as from some insights that I gathered from there, because this was literally like the United Nations. There were people from virtually every continent in that meeting in Dubai. There were people from China, from US, from UK, from Dubai, from Singapore, from New Zealand, from Australia, from France. It was literally like a mini United Nations. And so I was very happy that I won, because it's like beating the entire world. So
Yeah.
So that was one thing. And the other thing was, the minute I won the competition, it was as if there were just about 25, 30 people in the room, but I felt as if I won an Oscar or some Grammy award. Because they were so excited. And they were taking pictures, not even selfies. Selfies came later, but they were just taking pictures of me.
Okay.
And then said, okay, can I have a selfie with you? So again, not from an egoistical point of view, purely from if I were to just witness that thing as a third person, I found it it was a very powerful message to me that plenty of these guys are from countries which are more literate than we are and who have developed their thinking skills. I mean, we've had thinking skills, but we've neglected them. And the current system for education needs to make us better thinkers. But we had plenty of geniuses. We still have a lot of geniuses, but we had lots of geniuses in the past who were better than anybody else in the world. So it just made me aware that as a society, we have to place value on creativity. If we have to become a superpower in this world, we have to do that.
Okay, wonderful. I think that would have been a fantastic moment.
Happy when definitely on the right path in terms of learning and development.
Okay, wonderful. Dharmendra, you're also the first Mumbai's mind map trainer and also the first person in the world to talk on TEDx on creativity and mind mapping. So how did the journey begin?
Mind mapping is really a tool that makes creativity very easy. And when I'm using the word easy, I mean easier. It's just for convenience that I'm using the word easy. But when I say easy, as I mentioned before, it means easier and not easy. Nothing's easy. So there are plenty of tools out there. There are plenty of concepts on creativity. There are plenty of books. There are plenty of seminars. But it's not very easy to implement those strategies. And a mind map is very easy to implement. The most obvious evidence of that is if you go to Google Images and you put in Mindspace map, you will see lots of search results. About a year ago, this was about 1 billion search results because Google Images allowed you to see the number of searches. I don't think that facility is available anymore. So you could see 1 billion mind maps out there in Google Images, and that was proof that people in the world were using it, are using it in a very, very big way because it's very user friendly.
Okay, wonderful.
And now coming to your question about I have been asked by several people, since I have been a TEDx speaker 5 times, I have been asked by several people, how does one become a TEDx speaker? And I think that's not a good aim. You shouldn't try to become a TEDx speaker. You should just try to focus on doing something that is both unique and useful.
Okay.
Right? If you do something that's unique, then plenty of people want to know about it because it's unique, and if they want to know about it, then you're the only person who is there in their minds because you're unique.
True.
At the same time, it also has to be useful. So if I was the only trainer in the world who, if I told people I'm the only trainer in the world who wears totally yellow clothes when I am doing a training session, that means I wear a yellow cap and I wear a yellow shirt and I wear a yellow pair of socks and yellow shoes, they'll say, yeah, you're unique, but what's the use of that? How am I going to benefit by you wearing yellow clothes? So it has to be something useful as well.
True.
So you got to focus on something that's unique and useful, and then make that your life. Focus on that. Be very single-minded. Focus on that. Market it well. Work very hard at it. And sooner or later, you will get invited to plenty of speaking sessions. So I've been not invited just to TEDx. I've been invited to WPO. I've been invited by the CFA organization. I have been invited by IIT Bombay. So you get invited to plenty of these places. If you're not doing that, and then you just talk to these guys and say, hey, I want to be a TEDx speaker, or I want to be a speaker at IIT Mumbai, it doesn't work that way. You really shouldn't focus on trying to become a speaker. You should focus on what you want to do rather than what you want to do in terms of what is the skill that you want to develop, rather than say have a goal that says I want to be a speaker here or there, or I want to make so much money, or I want to join this company. Those are all secondary.
True. And if you being unique and useful, I think success would follow.
Yes,
all other platforms would be open.
Yes, and of course one shouldn't forget hard work.
True. Definitely, I think this would have been a fantastic moment for you being there. And Dharmendra, help me understand the difference between, mind mapping and concept mapping, and also mind mapping and brainstorming. Are all of these are similar or different?
Okay, concept mapping is a bit like mind mapping. At the same time, if you are using mind mapping, then you don't really need to use concept mapping.
Okay.
So concept mapping is when you are trying to understand concepts and you're trying to link various concepts together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got that thing that's common to mind maps. That is definitely one thing that concept mapping has and mind mapping also has. But mind mapping can do what concept mapping can do, but concept mapping cannot do everything that a mind map can do.
Mm.
So you should definitely use mind mapping and not use concept mapping because you have a better tool. Because mind mapping has images, color, one word per line, and plenty of other attributes which are not there in concept mapping. So there are plenty of tools which are out there which are very good for a certain activity.
Okay.
For example, a flowchart is great for logical reasoning. For example, a Gantt chart is great for project management. Now, these are some tools which are some of the best tools for that particular process. So I'm not suggesting that a mind map will be able to replace those tools. You could use mind maps as a complementary tool to that tool. So if you are doing project management, and I've done seminars for plenty of project managers who have got the PMP certification, which is the most prestigious certification that you can get as a project manager. I've trained them, and they have found it very useful. They don't want to replace a Gantt chart, but they're able to get lots of ideas. They're able to plan a project better if they use the mind map and other specialized tools in project management like a Gantt chart.
Okay. That's a wonderful input, Dharmendra. Dharmendra, I also heard in your last interview with Tony Buzan when he was in India that even PM Modi endorsing mind map for mindfulness, and you also mentioned about Bill Gates also talking about it. Nothing political, but would like to hear your insights on this approach.
Yeah, so it was a big surprise. A friend of mine, his name is Jaldeep Bhansali, who incidentally is also from Gujarat.
Okay.
he was the first one to WhatsApp me a link to Mr. PM Modi's book. His book is called Exam Warrior. And PM Modi talks a lot to students and they ask him tips on studying better and memorizing better. So he's talked a lot about how to reduce the tension that students have when they're giving exams. So he decided to put it all in a book called Exam Warrior.
Okay.
Now, he's also mentioned about mind mapping. I brought that to the attention of Tony immediately, and Tony was absolutely ecstatic. He wanted to meet PM Modi, and we talked to plenty of people. And I think if Tony was still alive, we would have probably met PM Modi maybe in the next 6 months or 1 year, but that's not possible now.
Mm-hmm.
But Tony spoke to the publisher of that book. I think Penguin is the publisher of the book Exam Warrior by PM Modi. And mind map that PM Modi has mentioned, has shown in that book, is what I would say is a proto mind map or a preparatory mind map. It's not the final version of a mind map.
Mm-hmm.
So Tony had brought this up to the publishers at Penguin, and Penguin had decided that before the next edition of Exam Warrior would go into print, they would get inputs from Tony. They would get a mind map from Tony himself, and that would be shown in the next edition of that book. So again, I don't think that's going to happen because of this unfortunate development.
Sure, yeah. So in continues to the students and the youth conversation we had, what are your thoughts on mind maps in education and teaching? I definitely see this is a beneficial learning tool which can help and scale students to a greater, larger level.
Oh yes, absolutely. I've done sessions for almost all major schools and colleges in India. Either I have been to their campuses or they have sent their teachers and students to my open seminars. And it's a great help. Now, the way I position it for students is going back to a conversation we had as to what's the biggest pain in a person's life. If you can really focus on what's a person's biggest pain, that's when you get the maximum engagement from him, because that gives that person immediate relief. So creativity is absolutely critical. Students should know about creativity. That's going to determine how rich their lives are going to be, both financially as well as mentally, in terms of whether they become opinion leaders, in terms of whether they become good businessmen or senior executives in Fortune 500 companies. Creativity is going to be a major factor. But I don't think that's the best way to start with students.
Okay.
Because a student today is extremely confused. He is getting too many messages from his parents, from social media, from his peers, from his teachers. So I think students are unnecessarily burdened today. And there's always a pressure of absorbing too much information and doing well in exams. So the first approach I have towards students is to tell them that, look, why don't you use mind mapping? It's going to cut down your revision time by 90%.
Okay.
And that obviously has a huge appeal, because I think people, I think students need to study, but then in addition to that, they also need to relax. They also need to indulge in. So I think the first thing to really talk to a student is, look, this is a tool that can reduce your revision time by as much as 90%. And then he gets interested, then he starts using mind maps. And then you can say, look, it also helps you to learn better. It also helps you to be more creative. I think that's the right way to go about it, because creativity for plenty of students is still pretty much an abstract concept, because it's very difficult for them to do something creative immediately and immediately get the feedback of others.
Okay.
So it's not something that they'll immediately latch onto. If you tell them creativity is important, they may not really understand that point very fast. So if they use mind maps and they say it's a powerful tool, and then we talk about creativity, I think they're going to be much more excited about it.
True. And that 90% time saving also matters. So, they can revise and do much better in the required subjects. Yeah, I think that was a great insight for the students on the mind map tool, Dharmendra. Dharmendra, now you've also attended a master class with Professor Tony Buzan, a session called Understanding the Power of Your Mind Using Mind Maps. What was your key learning, and what is that you're still continuing to apply these learnings?
Yeah, so I've attended several, I think I must have attended over 20 seminars by Tony.
Okay.
And of course, plenty of one-to-one sessions as well, because whenever we came to India, we would literally have breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. So I've had the benefit of his training, as well as coaching, as well as mentoring, as well as I would just ask him very pointed questions about some things about the brain and learning and memory, and he was very happy to talk about them.
Okay.
So the main point that has impressed me the most and that stayed with me the most is the importance of brain literacy, is that it's a never-ending journey, and it is the most important journey you can have in your life. Because when you have to understand that when Tony started this in the 1960s, there was nobody else, or there must have been very few people who really talked about the concept of self-improvement through understanding how your brain works.
Okay.
Now, to be a pioneer there, to just say that I'm going to devote my entire life when nobody else in the world, you don't really have a reference. You can't look at somebody else and say, okay, this guy did this and I'm going to, in a way, copy what he did and I'm going to succeed too. He didn't have any such reference. Yeah, because there were no books on how to use your brain in a better way. He, in fact, went to the library, and this is documented in his biography and his talks. Tony was very frustrated. He was taking down notes and notes and notes, and he was just not able to grapple with the information. His understanding and his memory both took a backseat. So he was very frustrated, and he wanted to understand more about how the brain works so that he could improve his learning, memory, and creativity. So he went to the librarian and he said, I want a book about the brain. So she pointed him to the medical section. And he said, I don't want to take it out. I just want to use it better. So she said, there are no such books. And he was immediately frustrated. And then he said, wow, this is actually an opportunity. Why don't I be the person to write books about how to use your brain in a better way? And he wrote more than 150 books.
Marvelous.
So that's the main reason why Tony is a hero to me. That's the main thing. He decided to do something which at that time was very risky, and right till the end of his life, probably till his last breath, that's what he kept doing. He was like on it. He was doing video interviews. He was writing books. He was doing seminars. He was doing consultancy. He was doing one-on-one conversations. That's it. He was completely focused.
Yeah, very much agree with you, Dharmendra. It's a never-ending journey. That's what the complete message. And until you die, I think you should be practicing whatever you have learned.
Yeah, your mission in life should be something that's impossible.
Okay. So you are India's first and only double Think Buzan license instructor. Definitely a big feather on your cap. How did this happen? And I'm sure you would have gone through a lot of struggle, and that to be the India's first.
Right. It was just a matter of attending Tony's sessions several times. So I was trained by one of Tony's trainers way back in 2009. That got me the Mind Map certification. So that made me the first trainer in Mumbai. Then I decided to go to Dubai and meet Tony himself in a 4-day session on Mind Map training. So that was in 2011. And then he came to India at the end of 2011 again. So actually, I've been certified thrice, not twice.
Okay. Okay.
So every time you go back to a guru like Tony, you learn something new. So more the better, more the merrier.
Okay. Definitely, you would have gone through a tremendous experience learning through the gurus, I think. And it's also been a great honor for you to getting declared as a genius by Tony Buzan himself. I'm sure it was not easy, firstly, to build that kind of a trust, ownership and accountability, and getting that kind of a recognition from Tony Buzan himself. What was your feeling and how did this happen?
I think the biggest reason for that was me winning the creativity contest in Dubai. So that was when Tony probably observed that I am able to leverage creativity processes into real life applications. And also he has been observing how I have been marketing mind maps on social media. Yeah, there's obviously a lot of creativity involved there because you can't keep talking about the same thing. You can't just talk about the laws of mind mapping, for example, or tell people what a mind map is beyond a point. You have to bring in interesting references. You have to bring in references to things that are related to current affairs, things that are related to maybe famous personalities that people respect. For example, just a few days ago, the world marked the 500th death anniversary of Leonardo da Vinci. And he is considered to be the greatest, the most brilliant human being in the history of the planet, with no number two to speak of. You can't really say that he was number one and this gentleman is number two. There is no number two. And he was that brilliant because he was a genius at just about anything you could think of. He was a genius at aerodynamic engineering. He was a genius at anatomy. He was a genius at playing musical instruments. He was a genius at dress design. You name it, and he was like the most sophisticated, the most skilled person in that field at that time. So he was literally like somebody supernatural. Now, if you look at his notebooks, and Bill Gates has purchased some of his notebooks, you can imagine that they must be selling in the millions. There are some notebooks in Italy, and there's some notebooks in UK. I don't know how they landed up in UK. And there's some notebooks which are sold and which are bought for a very, very high price by Bill Gates. Because Bill Gates is a thinker, he's a reader, he likes to learn how people learn. And there's a gentleman called Michael Gelb, who is a good acquaintance of mine, who we are in touch on LinkedIn, and he uses mind maps. He recommends mind maps. He uses mind maps in his training because he trains people on how to think like Leonardo da Vinci. So you have to, as a trainer, consciously make all these interesting connections to get people's attention. At the same time, there has to be a genuine reason to make these connections.
True.
I can't just talk about mind maps and Ranveer Singh out of the blue and just make some kind of connection because that connection can always be made. And that's not what I'm talking about. That would be simplistic and redundant, and that would be reductionist. So you need a lot of creativity in finding out, okay, how do I talk about this? A genius like Leonardo da Vinci used mind maps in his own way, and that's obvious in his notebooks. So to pick out that connection and to talk about it and talk about other strategies that Leonardo used and how that ties in with mind maps. So you've got to keep on making these connections and making your syllabus interesting.
Wonderful. So Dharmendra, as a L&D professional, I know what mind map is, and I've also been applied by for anything I want to achieve, knowing like the basics or planning. For example, sales team for idea generation, or teachers mind map their session plan. So I want to understand what was your first mind map journey, and was there any challenges in the whole process?
The first time I saw a book on mind mapping, I rejected it. And that's why I'm very careful when I do training on mind mapping. I don't immediately show people what a mind map is. Because the context has to be set. I didn't do that. When I saw a book at a bookshop, and I just browsed it, and the first thing I was looking at were the visuals, because visuals are eye-catching, and one of the reasons why mind mapping is very successful is because it's full of visuals. So I looked at a mind map and I said, oh, so this childish, colorful drawing full of pictures and cartoons, this is really going to help me think better. That's impossible. I just rejected it, and I didn't really read the book properly. I just kept it back and just went ahead. Later on, I heard about a seminar, and I went for that seminar. And that's when I really understood mind mapping, because it was experiential. Plus, I think plenty of people learn much better in a seminar than they do in any other format, right? Because in a seminar, you're absorbed in the subject for 7 to 8 hours if you're attending full day seminar. Secondly, you're doing stuff, so it's experiential. You can talk all you want about mind maps, but till you actually get a person to make a mind map, you'll never get him to understand how beautiful and how useful it is.
Okay.
And the third thing is, you have any doubts, you get them clarified on the spot. So that's why I recommend people to attend seminars, take it very seriously, because you can read 100 books and not learn anything, and you can waste several years of your life, or you can attend a seminar and in one day you can learn much more than you can learn in 10 years.
True. And you also have a right mentor there to answer the kind of doubts you would have in your mind, and most of our questions would be answerable in such sessions.
Absolutely. So the teacher has to create an aura of authority. No matter how good he is at the subject, just being good at the subject is not enough. He has to create an aura. If he doesn't have that aura, then people are not going to be impressed. So charisma is equally important compared to, say, knowledge or dedication or passion.
Yeah. And when you mention charisma, I'm sure it would have been like a dream come true for you. You have been the luckiest who have got an opportunity to get trained, meet and interact with eminent management leaders like Tony Buzan, Edward Devano, Jack Canfield. I think many other management gurus in your profile I see. How was all this possible? Was this, part of your goal or aspiration?
Yeah, it was and remains to be an important thing in my life, to meet people that I think are much smarter than I am.
Okay.
So that's something that you might think is a no-brainer. You might think, oh, everybody wants to meet people who are smarter than they are. I don't think so. I think many people want to avoid people who are smarter than they are, because when you're with a person who's smarter than you are, you're in a way admitting that you're more foolish than he is. So I don't think many people want to do that. So people's inclination, some people want to travel, they want to see lots of places they've not seen before. Some people are crazy about sports and they want to spend a lot of time there. So everybody has his own inclination. My inclination, right since childhood, has been to read a lot of books and to understand concepts and to meet people who've written these books and meet people who are much smarter than I am. And I've been very clear that's been one of my greatest passions, and it continues to be one of my greatest passions. I have traveled and spent money to meet people I really care about, which plenty of people would think is a stupid thing to do, because many people don't do that kind of spending. So,
yeah. I think, people even to do a self-learn think a lot. Like one of my coach had mentioned, can you invest 1% of whatever you earn for your own development, for your own passion? And that actually triggered me for last few years. And I'm continuously in that journey, Dharmendra.
Right. Now you have to spend on what you really want and cut down your expenditure on things that you don't really want. So goes back to the term that I'm using for my productivity program, ruthless efficiency. Ruthless productivity. You have to be ruthless about what you don't like and cut it out, because there's only so much time, energy and money available in this world.
Yeah, true. And I'm sure that Charishma, you have brought in with a lot of people also, Dharmendra. When I see your profile on LinkedIn or a Facebook or a YouTube, I'm like really mind blown. The kind of a connect you have had with the people on the planet, and the kind of a, I think you are the most endorsed trainer, I would say. I just want to hear your story. How did this happen? I'm sure you have brought in a lot of unique and usefulness to the people, but then sometimes people get busy and don't even want to bother, to even appreciate the kind of work they would have got a value at. How did this all happen to you?
Yeah, ultimately, it again boils down to a lot of hard work. You have to keep on talking to more and more people. You can never stop.
Okay.
So you have to keep on networking. You have to keep on adding people to your email database. You got to keep on requesting people to subscribe to your blogs, to YouTube channels. So you got to keep on and on adding more people to your universe. And then you obviously get more of everything. You get more people coming to your seminars. The more people you get to your seminars, the more people you get to endorse you. So it's just a lot of hard work and a belief that success is blue collar. Success is about quantity. You can't just sit back and say, okay, I'm the best trainer in this area, or I am the biggest specialist in this area in the world. So now everybody in the world is going to come to me.
Okay.
You can't have that attitude. You got to go out there and keep on talking to people till the last day of your life. So there's no escaping that.
Wonderful.
People think that's a low down thing to do. They think marketing yourself is a cheap thing to do. They just want to preserve their egos, and they don't want to work hard. So they keep on trying to make excuses as to why they're not marketing. So it doesn't work. You may have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, nobody cares.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. I'm sure there's been a lot of insight you have shared on Mind Map and the kind of a connect and the value add what you have brought into the people, Dharmendra. One last question on, for people who wants to start their journey in Mind Map.
Okay, so there are various people at various stages of wanting to understand mind mapping or wanting to train on mind mapping, and the people with various budgets and various geographies. So if you just want to get started, I suggest you look at maybe pick up some books by Tony Buzan. I've written a book, but I have to get through the formalities to actually getting it published and marketing it. So I will definitely do that within this year. But till that time, they can definitely pick up books by Tony. And the most comprehensive book of his that he's written in recent times is a book called Mind Map Mastery, which is available on Amazon. So if somebody is willing to buy a book, then he should definitely buy that book. If somebody just wants to look at some videos, he can look at Tony's videos, he can look at my videos, he can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dharmendra Rai. He can look at my blog, Dharmendra Rai blog. He can look at my events, Dharmendra Rai events. So this is for people who want to know about mind maps generally and then decide what they want to do after browsing through all this. People who are into learning, or they want to get into learning and they want to train about mind maps, I do a lot of train-the-trainer sessions. Again, they can get details of that. When is the program being held? In which part of the country it's being held? They can get all those details on Dharmendra Rai events.
Okay.
Yeah, they just have to Google these things and they'll get to the website. So I'm not mentioning the name of the website because this is easier. They just Google this and they'll land up at the website.
Okay, sure. I'm sure that, there is so much of insight with you and all these connects, what you have mentioned. I will definitely leave it a note on my description so that people can easily reach out to you. It's much more than Alexa, I would say. With the two parts of this session, it's time now for me to move on to the powerful questions to unveil for my listeners, Dharmendra, to engage, empower, and entertain. And that's the mission of my podcast too. Are you ready?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
This is like a rapid fire round in Coffee with Karan.
Yeah, kind of. But then it's the inspiration where, people can engage with you, get empowered, and also get, enlightened. So that's the intent of this powerful questions. So my first powerful question to you is, according to you, what is the star moment?
The star moment.
Yes.
Okay, the star moment on my mind mapping journey was definitely meeting Tony Buzan in person. He had come to India way back in 2009, brief meeting. So yeah, that was in a way the star moment because I saw him for the first time. And when you see your guru for the first time, it's an unreal feeling. You suddenly feel that. I suddenly felt that okay, he's real. He's not a fictional character. So I mean, I've seen him on video and I've read his book, so I know he's a real character, right? But a part of my brain doesn't believe it.
Okay.
So I'm okay, he's real. He's a real human being.
Wonderful. So my next question to you is, what inspires you to do everything that you do today?
So the ultimate goal is to feel good. To be happy is to feel good. And you have to decide and clarify as to what really makes you feel good.
Okay.
So understanding about the brain and understanding about concepts that I like to understand, like the brain, learning, memory, creativity, science of influence, productivity. I like to understand those concepts by reading about them from brilliant people. And then I like to talk about those concepts and share those concepts with people. And I like to see them make their lives better with this.
Okay.
So that is what motivates me. Now, what is very important to understand is that every day you're not, if you're pursuing your passion, it's not that you're going to enjoy every moment. For example, just getting up early in the morning is a big pain for me because I'm not a morning person. But then for plenty of seminars, I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning. So I reach the venue at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. So it's not going to be fun. You're not going to enjoy every part of it. But then the way I look at it is you slog and you go through some stuff that you don't like. But ultimately, you are able to get a major part of your life designed in a way that you like. So that's very, very critical. If you're not going to do this kind of thinking, then you're just not going to like most of your life, which will definitely make you unhappy.
True, Dharmendra. So, Dharmendra, if you own the company, what's one thing you would do differently in learning?
First of all, I wouldn't own a company. That's because I think the future is company-less. I think the future is where people are going to be independent agents. There are going to be no employees. People are going to work on a contract basis or on an assignment basis or on a result basis. So that's why I think the concept of company itself is going to go maybe in the next 10 to 15 years.
True.
The biggest learning mistake I see corporates making is that they push trainings to employees and they pay for the trainings, which doesn't make any sense. Right? If I were to run a company, I would tell people, look, you're getting this salary and this is your target. And if you achieve this target, then you get these rewards, maybe a higher salary, maybe an incentive for achieving these targets or whatever. And then now that I've told them that, then I would say, these are some skills that can help you achieve your targets.
True.
It's up to those guys to say that, okay, these 10 skills are required. I think I have these 5 skills. I think I will need training in these 5 skills. Let him go out there and get the trainings himself. Let him go out there, select the trainer himself, pay for the trainings himself, because he's going to get an incentive if he puts the training to good use and achieve targets. This way, the company is encouraging training, but they don't need to have a budget for training. People who are going to training are going to take it seriously because they've paid for the training, and they're going to put the training to use and get better results. And they say, look, I went to this training, I got better results, in which case the good trainers in the market then get to attract more people.
Yeah, true. And accountability also goes high when, they invest and they explore.
Yeah. Yeah. And if they feel that if somebody says, I have all these 10 skills, I don't need any training. Fine. If he has that view, then let him not get trained and let him then realize if training is needed or not needed.
Yeah.
So right now what's happening is trainings are being thrust upon people. So people, some of the people obviously take it seriously and they take advantage of the training programs that are being offered. But some people are there just because the bosses told them to be there. Or there's the requirement that in a year you got to do 50 hours of training, 100 hours of training, or whatever. That is totally wrong.
Okay. And that's the shift you're going to bring in your.
And that I would have if I was running my company.
Okay.
That's what I keep telling companies. So I know that's going to affect my own income, because if a company is not going to sponsor trainings, then it's going to lead to less trainings for me. But then that's just the right thing to do as far as training people is concerned.
Yeah. I'm in that journey, so I know the kind of a pain, and you're bang on making that accountable for that individual. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because when a person comes to my training, I want him to be totally absorbed. I don't want him to look at his mobile. I don't want him to think about anything else. I want him to come early, and I want him to keep on asking questions.
Yeah, right. So, Dharmendra, moving on, what are the 3 most important things you would like to accomplish right now?
I don't have a number in terms of that, but I'm always constantly looking out for how to reach out to new people and to do the same thing, or you can call it a different thing, on different platforms. So this is the first time I am doing a podcast.
Right.
Which will be on iTunes, and I'm sure millions of people will listen to this.
Right.
So I have done Skype sessions, and I've done WhatsApp hours, but I have never done a podcast. So this is good because it's an exposure to a different technology and a different audience. So this is a good way of increasing my contact base.
Okay, wonderful. In fact, my podcast, when it reached to different countries, I have not even heard of the names, and there people are listening. That's mostly, most inspiring for me.
Yeah, that's right.
Countries. Yeah.
You're reaching out to different geographies. You're reaching out to people who like to listen to podcasts. So there are some people who don't like to listen to podcasts. They like to see a video. So that's why I have videos as well. Some people want to just read a book. That's why I'm writing a book. Some people want a coaching session. Some people want a consulting session. Some people want a training session. So I'm offering it in as many media as possible. So I want to keep on. I want to be there in all media.
Ah, wonderful. So if I may ask you, what are your strengths?
My strengths are that I don't think I have too many strengths. So I always wake up insecure, and that's what I recommend other people to do. That you got to be insecure. You got to think that that whatever is done is done. Every day you got to act like an underdog and go out there and do your bit of hard work. So I think that's my strength. I've realized that you can never relax. Right till the last day of your life, you got to keep on getting better and marketing yourself.
Wonderful. So, what's the best book you have read this year, or anytime you want to recommend to my listeners?
Again, my best book would not necessarily be of interest to you, because you may have a different pain point, or maybe you already read it. So there are various reasons why my best book may not be your best book. But one very interesting book I read is called Bad Blood.
Okay.
This is about a lady called Elizabeth Holmes, who became the youngest lady billionaire in the world through some medical device which actually never worked. She just fooled the entire world into thinking a particular medical device worked. She got investors like Larry Ellison and Rupert Murdoch into a fraud company. It's not that there was a technology behind it, but it did work very well. And these guys didn't understand that. They didn't understand that they were being conned. And these are not small amounts. I mean, Rupert Murdoch is a billionaire. He owns the Wall Street Journal. He is a one of the biggest media personalities, biggest media barons in the world. And he's an extremely intelligent man. And he had invested $125 million into a company called Theranos, run by this lady Elizabeth Holmes. So I'm very intrigued to know how so many super brilliant people can make mistakes and that their brains are actually quite fragile. We think of these guys as being super smart, but they're not super smart. So those are kind of things which I was constantly thinking about when I was reading this book.
Okay. So, Dharmendra, my next question is on, what are the characteristics of the best boss or a role model? Or I know you have a lot of mentors and coach you have ever had. What made that person great for you?
I think one is that that person should obviously know more than you, or he should be more skilled than you. And the second thing is he should be genuinely interested in simplifying things for you.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. As a speaker, I keep on getting lots of books as presents. And I got a book by Amartya Sen. Now, Amartya Sen is an Indian economist who's won a Nobel Prize in economics. There was some book, I think it had the word justice in the cover, and it was really, really thick. I think it was about 500 to 600 pages. So I just browsed through it, the first 1 or 2 pages, and it was full of such complicated words. And the whole intention was, I am so smart, I'm a Nobel Prize winner, and you're just an ordinary fool who'll never understand what I'm trying to tell you anyway, so I'm not bothering to simplify it.
Okay.
That seemed to be the tone of the book. So I immediately went to the Raddiwala and I told him, how much will you give me if I sell this book to you? And he gave me 10 rupees. So I said, great. At least I got 10 rupees. I got some value from some guy called Amartya Sen. It's 10 rupees, fine. It's better than 0 rupees. So there are other economists. There's a behavioral economist called, who's a Nobel Prize winner called Daniel Kahneman. I've read virtually every word he's written. Richard Thaler, another Nobel Prize winner for behavioral economics. I have again read almost all the books that he's written. Same with another brilliant behavioral economist called Dan Ariely, who's written a book called Predictably Irrational and plenty of other books after that. These guys are also super brilliant, but they really care about communicating. They really care about making things as simple as possible, in spite of the fact that they are super brilliant and they can make life very, very complicated, and they can use complicated words, and that's all fine for their functioning. But they are really interested in making their work go out and help plenty of people in this world. So they're taking pains to make it simple and entertaining. So that's very important in a guru.
Yeah, like the way you said, you have to be unique and making it useful. Yeah, if that is not there, then true. So my next question is on, are there any tools that you use on a daily basis to be a better you?
Yeah, so I use mind mapping specifically a lot for planning. So whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, whether it's a talk I'm giving, I love to use mind maps for the planning process. So then I feel much more comfortable that I've planned it and I know exactly what I have to do. So I try my best to separate thinking from doing, because you can't think and do too many things at the same time. It's better to separate these two and plan as much as possible. So I use mind maps. I use principles I've learned from David Allen about GTD, getting things done, and lots of other principles.
Okay, interesting. So in continuation to that, are there any resources like books or blogs or a website you would recommend to our listeners?
So what I am doing is I'm studying all these guys, and I'm what they put out in their books and blogs, I am converting it in simpler language, and I'm trying to get in Indian contexts and Indian current affairs and Bollywood. I'm trying to give examples from Bollywood and all this. So that's why I think they would do very well to go to my blog first. That's Dharmendra Rai blog. And then they will see these people. For example, if I've written something based on what Dan Ariely has said, I would have given him the credit for it, and I would have mentioned the book or some source of his where I've got that information from. So then if they like it, then they can go further on to maybe Tony's website, or to Dan Ariely's website, or to Daniel Kahneman's website.
Sure. Dharmendra, you also mentioned about your website. Is there any other way where people can reach out to you?
I think the website is the best because they don't even need to memorize my email address. If they just type Dharmendra Rai on Google,
okay,
you'll get to my website.
Okay, sure.
And on the website, there is a message option, which is very prominent. So you can send a message to me very easily without even knowing my email address.
Okay, sure. You made it simpler. So we are at the end of the questions.
Sure.
Yeah. So guys, all the links and resources which we have discussed in this episode will be made available in my show notes page of my podcast, Stars of Learning, and also on my website, prajvitaknowledge.com. That is PRAJVITA knowledge.com. I'll list out all the description we have had for your quick reference. And thank you so much, Dharmendra, for being on this show. I really enjoyed it, and I had a great insight on mind map and mind mapping techniques and how to be, relevant and useful also.
Great. Thanks a lot for interviewing me and really teasing out lots of stuff that plenty of listeners can relate to when they're thinking about mind mapping or learning, memory, creativity, productivity, or the science of influence.
Sure. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for that, Dharmendra. So friends, I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and if you have got any learning or motivated hearing to this show, then make sure you share this podcast with your friends and post it on all social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Insta, and do tag us and let your friends know about this amazing information you have learned, and let this piece of information help many others to engage, enlighten, and empower. Thank you so much for your patience and tuning into this show. Bye for now. Take good care of yourself and go out and do something engaging, enlightening, and empowering.